So, would you like to understand the psychology of your eating disorder better? Have you heard of the mantra flower? And would you like to dive deep into how your eating disorder might be helping you in some way, even if this isn't conscious? It's not about food, it's about feelings. I'm Harriet Frew, and this is the Eating Disorder Therapist podcast. I'm going to talk all about the mantra flower as a tool in eating disorder recovery and explain how it can help you to really understand yourself better. So let's get into it. So mantra is the Maudsley model of anorexia nervosa treatment for adults. It's specialist evidence-based treatment by the Maudsley Hospital based in London, and it brings together many psychological tools to support someone in recovery, including formulation, motivational work, nutrition, emotions, thinking, identity, and more. Now, although mantra is officially designed for anorexia, there are many components of the therapy which are incredibly valuable for anyone suffering from an eating disorder. So the mantra flower can be used across all diagnoses, and it's used to understand an eating disorder as a coping strategy, and it offers a visual kind of diagram to really understand this, so you can really get into the roots of the eating disorder, because an eating disorder is often a coping strategy for life struggles. It can offer safety and predictability when life feels out of control or overwhelming, and a focus on food and weight occupies the mind and can protect from deeper pain. It can offer a sense of achievement and purpose when someone feels an absence of worth in other areas, and it can become an identity, maybe as the healthy or fit person, which is sadly unhelpfully validated by thin ideals in Western culture. And it can also be a communication tool to others, signalling, I'm not okay, when it's challenging to say this through words or when someone feels overlooked or unheard. Now, each petal on the mantra flower signifies a factor that keeps the eating disorder going, and it can be called a vicious flower as it's keeping someone locked in destructive ways of coping. So I'm going to talk through the 4 different flower petals and how these play out in living with an eating disorder. Now, this tool offers valuable insights for sufferers and for carers. And once someone can appreciate how the eating disorder is helping, it opens the door to greater compassion and understanding and the potential for change. Okay, so number 1, the valued nature of an eating disorder. Now, this may seem complex initially to understand. How can an eating disorder be valued? The eating disorder may provide an identity, maybe thin, lean, emotional, fitness person, etc. And the outside world often validates this identity with the pressures around body image in our culture. Now, this is toxic, but it's a reality. And someone will also carry pro-eating disorder beliefs. So things like, my eating disorder is safe, it is mine alone. My eating disorder helps me manage my weight, so it's a good thing. My eating disorder helps me cope with life and juggle all of the balls. Now, particularly anorexia nervosa can be described as egosyntonic. The sufferer may genuinely experience many benefits simultaneously with severe costs, of course. The benefits make it challenging to let go of, though. So, for example, Lucy grew up in a high-achieving family. Her older brother was naturally academic and excelled in all his subjects. Now, he was often seen as the clever one in school and by his friends and family, and Lucy felt deeply inadequate and failing in comparison. She started dieting and successfully lost several kilos in weight. Initially, she gained much approval from her peers, and everyone considered that she was super healthy, going to the gym every day, even though she was inwardly struggling. But Lucy felt a strong sense of achievement for her weight loss and her healthy image, and considered that she had finally sort of found her thing, something that she was good at and could shine at. Now, inwardly, she began to deeply struggle with the impact of starvation, but the eating disorder felt difficult to let go of. It became her life raft in a judging and harsh world. Okay. Number 2, the social and emotional mind. Now, someone with an eating disorder is often highly sensitive and an empath. They feel the world deeply and absorb the feelings of others like a sponge. Now, many people are prone to people-pleasing and twisting themselves to meet the needs of others. Now, this is not a sustainable way to live. Emotions get buried and needs get unmet. Now, the eating disorder then becomes a vehicle to manage emotions and relationships, albeit unhealthily. And this can be played out in numerous ways. So someone might turn to food or over-exercise as a distraction and numbing from emotional pain. The eating disorder brings a controlled and predictable stress, at least some of the time, which occupies the mind 24/7. So rather than focusing maybe on a painful loss or overwhelming grief, the eating disorder offers a protective bubble where calories eaten or steps walked distract the mind and simplify a messy and overwhelming life. Now, the eating disorder is a powerful communication tool in relationships, again, often unconsciously, but it can communicate sadness or anger in ways that cannot be said out loud. And it can signal to others that someone isn't coping when they feel overlooked or unheard, or they feel unable to ask for help in a straightforward and assertive way. Now, many of my clients who have experienced emotional neglect as children cling to the notion of needing to be unwell to feel valid or worthy of emotional care. And interestingly, a child may experience a loving and physically supportive home with warmth, food, care, but the emotional support aspect has been lacking, maybe because parents have been struggling with the multiple demands of life. Number 3, thinking styles. Any human being who is restricting their food severely will experience the impact of restrictive eating. This is not just people who are objectively thin. Restrictive eating will impact the mental and physical well-being of someone of any body size. So restrictive eating brings rigid and obsessive thinking. There is a preoccupation with food, with other daily routines. For example, having to clean the kitchen perfectly before eating, sticking to rigid timings for activities, and avoiding socializing for fear of disruption to the routine. So thinking becomes black and white, with less ability to discern the nuance of life. Thinking becomes detail-focused with an intense preoccupation around numbers or specific body parts, and the broader picture of life is lost within the bubble of disordered eating thoughts. And this becomes a perpetuating cycle where thoughts around food and rigidity are excessive and continuous throughout the day. And it can feel extremely challenging to exit from the cycle as it gathers momentum and spirals tighter in intensity. Number 4, how others keep the eating disorder going. Now, it's vital to say that others keeping the eating disorder going is not an intentional act. Who would wish to be encouraging of an eating disorder? No one, absolutely no one. Now, as carers, therapists, and loved ones, we can often get inadvertently drawn into unhelpful ways of helping. We might enable eating disorder behaviours because we don't want conflict or to confront the reality of the situation. For example, things like buying very low-calorie foods or getting into exercise programs with our loved ones which are actually compulsive, or maybe giving constant reassurance about body image which the person can never really take in. And we may be frightened to confront behaviours for fear of making the situation worse. Now, any parent or carer will understandably feel anxious and overwhelmed by seeing a loved one struggling. Of course, these feelings are valid and need to be expressed in a safe place to a family member, a friend, or therapist. But when we express high emotions, fear, sadness, or anger to our loved one who is suffering, this again can inadvertently cause the person to withdraw and become more secretive with their behaviours. And someone struggling will not wish to burden or upset a loved one. High expressed emotion from a parent can feel like confirmation that they are too much. And a lot of people with eating disorders think that they're too sensitive and too much. So they cling to the eating disorder more tightly to cope. So if you are a carer supporting an adolescent or young adult, you may wish to read up as well on the new Maudsley Animal Model. Such a great model which really helps you understand how to support someone. Understanding an eating disorder as a coping strategy, and then this opens up exploration of new and healthy ways to manage things differently. So with the Maudsley model, it helps you to communicate safely in relationships. It helps to learn problem-solving skills to boost self-worth and self-reliance rather than using food. And it aims to learn emotional regulation skills and developing emotional intelligence and finding identity and purpose through more meaningful avenues rather than the pursuit of thinness or muscularity. And eating more regularly and in a self-caring way to balance blood sugar and reduce rigid thinking and inflexibility. So the mantra flower can be such an effective tool to understand an eating disorder psychologically, and it's not just for anorexia, it's helpful for all eating disorders, and it opens the door to becoming self-compassionate, self-aware and self-empowered to reflect on possible change and transformation in recovery. So have you used the mantra flower in your own recovery? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for listening and watching. If you're a listener, I'm now also on YouTube. If you enjoy this podcast, please do follow, rate and review or subscribe on YouTube. And I look forward to sharing another episode with you soon. And if you are listening to this on audio and you want to see an image of the mantra flower, just so it makes a lot more sense, you can either go to my Substack, where there is a written version of this audio, or you can go to YouTube and watch the full video. And the links to both of these things are in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here.